You're watching The Attorneys, a paid advertisement brought to you by the law firm of Hollis, Wright.
Car crashes, defective products, dangerous drugs, injuries, and abuse. Across the state of Alabama, The Attorneys, proudly sponsored by the law firm of Hollis Wright, are here to serve you. Your tough legal questions answered by our experts with The Attorneys of Hollis Wright.
Welcome. You are watching The Attorneys. Say you're building a new home. That's probably the largest investment you ever make. But what happens if something goes wrong? So we're going to be talking about construction litigation. That's the topic on this Attorneys. I want to remind you, though, as we get started, lawyers at Hollis Wright are standing by right now. They'll be standing by throughout the show. All you have to do is call 1-844-LAW-TALK. 1-844-LAW-TALK. You'll reach someone at Hollis Wright. It's a free, confidential call. So glad to have you as we talk about construction litigation. This is a fascinating topic.
Not just a fascinating topic, it impacts so many people in our community.
It does.
And it is a topic that, honestly, I don't really recall a lot of shows that we've done on this. We should have done more because of the amount of new construction going on in Birmingham and the surrounding area, where there are tricks to the trade, understanding how to negotiate your contracts on the front end, what to do during the course of your construction project, and then what happens if things go bad and you've already signed over the house and taken responsibility for the house. How does that work? And so Patrick Evans is with us today. First of all, thank you so much for being on.
Thank you for having me.
We're so glad to have you. Patrick's with the Evans Law Firm. But how did you get into this area of the law? Because kind of residential construction litigation is not the run-of-the-mill thing that lawyers do when they come out of law school, but this is kind of a specialty.
Well, I got into it because the need really kicked up after around COVID, where people were trying to build homes. Then you had a material shortage and labor shortage, and that has kind of snowballed into effect where we are now seeing a bunch of cases where homes were being built with corners cut. They were being built with materials that were substandard, all for the purpose of getting to the point of the certificate of occupancy and the point of full sale for the construction managers and construction building companies that are around. So we had an influx in calls around that time, and I practiced with my father, Danny Evans, sister Maureen Evans, and stepmom Alexandria Parrish, and our firm is a litigation-oriented firm. And as this need evolved, we really have kind of dove headfirst into it, from the point of negotiating the contracts all the way to the point of getting experts involved to finding out the problem and then ultimately filing suit.
And tell me this, I kind of remember this. One of the big issues during COVID related to circumstances where builders who had received construction draws or received money in other ways for construction were slow playing construction, borrowing from Paul to pay Peter, and using resources for different homes. And this was kind of a big deal during COVID, arguing that COVID had slowed everything down. And I just kind of remember that in the news. Was that something you guys saw?
It is, and it's also an excuse that we saw too, that these builders, like many other businesses, will take on too much work at one time, and then they will get the client sign up to build their home, get the plans done, get a foundation quickly poured, and then move on to do the same for another home, using mixed funds between the projects. So they will eventually get 5 or 10 homes going at once, and the funds become very thinly dispersed.
Yeah, I would argue, and we've kind of talked about this on the show before, people get emotional about a lot of litigation.
They do.
But people really get emotional about home litigation when they're frustrated about their home. Either the home wasn't built the way that it was supposed to be built, or it wasn't done consistent with what the contract was, or they feel like they were not treated fairly. So a lot of times I know that Patrick and his group are having to deal with the emotional expectations too of this. That can be a big component to the litigation.
And I'm looking at a lot of homes being built right on my street now. It's like 5 happening all at one time. And when people build their home and you go out and you're checking on your house, you're checking on and see how things are coming along, what are some of the most common construction defects are you seeing happening out there right now?
Sure. Well, going back to the emotional aspect, I mean, our homes, for the majority of us, is the largest investment
Yes,
we'll ever make.
absolutely.
And when the home is being constructed, the first problems we see are with the foundation. A lot of foundations, if it's a slab home, are being quickly poured in conditions when they should not be poured. And the concrete is not tested thereafter to make sure there's a sound footing for which to build a home. And the framing comes in next. We are seeing a influx in roofing structures that are not up to code, or they're right on the cusp of being to code. And they're one storm, and we have a lot of storms and wind in this area. They're one storm away from having a roof collapse. Similarly, with the HVAC and plumbing, there are issues that go along with that, where the foundation, if it's a slab, the piping under the foundation for the plumbing fails because it hasn't been properly reinforced. So the initial problems are with, the innards of the home, and that are quickly concealed as soon as sheetrock goes up, as soon as the veneer of the home goes up.
Then you figure out the problem down the road. And it's significant because it's a foundational issue. Let's talk about this. Do you find that oftentimes when people come to you, they did not use an attorney to negotiate their original home contract or construction contract, and you're trying to unwrap some of the stuff that was done and unwind some of the stuff that was done in the original contract that they simply negotiated with their builder?
All the time.
Yeah.
I have very rarely seen it where a person will hire an attorney for a couple hours, to at least go through the contract to say these terms and clauses are not included. They will take the form contract, certainly if it's a spec home, like in a community, they will take the form contract the builder gives them, they will sign it, and then down the road they realize they're either bound by arbitration or they've waived certain rights that would normally be afforded to us all to get into a courtroom.
Why can't we have an opening attorney? We got a closing attorney on houses.
Great idea. I like the sound of that.
Yeah.
I do. And you mentioned, I listened to your comment. Your comment was for a couple hours. I mean, this doesn't take a experienced construction attorney, residential construction attorney, very long to evaluate and say, hey, look, you should add the following provisions in there. These people doing construction, they will work with you on the contract. And they'll work with you because it's a competitive environment. There are a lot of good people constructing homes out there. And that's the one thing I know that even Patrick would agree to. Not every builder is doing a bad job. Not every financing company that's helping finance these construction projects is doing a bad job. A lot of times it's great, but there's some things that you can do to make sure that you're doing it the right way from the front end. So what do you recommend generally goes in these contracts early on?
First, the term of when the house should be built, and also the scope of work, exactly what you want to be done to construct the largest investment that you'll ever make. And the pricing, and how the pricing can be adjusted, that is a big issue, because when the builder gets squeezed for material costs, or the homeowner changes something down the road, the builder tries to find ways, most of the time unilaterally, to change it and to make that work. And the homeowner finds out down the road that costs have been cut in one area to fix the cost issue in another. So it is very important to lay out when the house is going to be constructed how to handle scope of work changes and the scope of work and the level of home that you want constructed. Some homes are built on spec plans that have been used for multiple homes. And other homes have been built as custom houses that are craftsman oriented. The problem our state has is the Alabama Home Builders Licensure Board doesn't have a demarcation between the type of home builder. So if you have an unrestricted license as a builder, you can come in and say, I can build this very detailed custom home, but only have the experience of building, a small community specification build, which is the same type of build after build.
I know we're going to break. When we come back, I want to talk to Patrick a little bit about What happens in mid-construction when you realize things are not being done consistent with the contract, and kind of how do you manage that? And then what do you do afterwards when they're ready to turn the home over to you, but you feel like it's not completely finished? How do you manage that?
I tell you, I already learned one.
Yeah.
Opening attorney.
I like that.
Got to
I
have
like
an
that.
opening attorney to figure out what that contract is like when you're building your new home. That's why you watch the attorneys, right? You get this type of good information. We also have attorneys standing by at Hollis Wright right now at 1-844 Law Talk, 1-844 Law Talk for a free confidential call. We're going to take a break. We're going to continue with this discussion when we come back. You're watching The Attorneys.
Here's some good information from our firm to you. Hollis Wright recently launched the Law Talk podcast. With podcasts becoming so popular, this will be a simple way to provide our loyal viewers with more opportunities to access information about important legal topics and to learn more about our firm and how we can help you if the need ever arises. There are many ways to access the Law Talk podcast. You can simply scan the QR code on your screen. Also, episodes are always available on the Hollis Wright YouTube channel, as well as on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you consume your podcasts. Just search up Hollis Wright in the Law Talk podcast. Don't wait, take advantage and listen today. Thanks for watching The Attorneys, and we know you'll enjoy the Law Talk podcast.
The Attorneys, proudly sponsored by the law firm of Hollis Wright, are here to serve you.
When we started the show in 2011, my goal was to do what our firm does best. Help people answer questions related to real-world legal issues they have in their lives in a way that's not intimidating to talk with a lawyer. If the issue is important to you, it's equally important to us, and we're ready to talk with you at no cost.
Yeah, oftentimes people are confronting various legal issues in their lives that really run the gamut of a lot of different legal practice areas such as bankruptcy, criminal law, civil law such as personal injury, divorces, domestic relations. And to be able to have a show once a week that covers those practice areas and answers people's questions in those areas, that's really the main objective of the show.
We use the resources of the many lawyers at our law firm to create a plan that has a lasting impact for each person that calls or texts. And we also give back to the community at the same time. We are here to serve you, the viewer, each week on The Attorneys.
Addiction kills hope.
But at Bradford, it all changes here.
Experience the difference
that proven treatment can make.
Find recovery, find community.
at Bradford.
You're watching The Attorneys, a paid advertisement brought to you by the law firm of Hollis Wright.
Say you're building a home and all of a sudden you find out something went wrong and you don't know what to do about it. Well, we're talking about construction litigation on this episode of The Attorneys, so you're at the right spot. You can also get in contact with someone at Hollis Wright right now at 1-844-LAW-TALK, 1-844-LAW-TALK for a free confidential call, or scan that QR code on the screen. You'll reach someone at Hollis Wright right there as well. Josh, as we were heading to break, there's some things that you wanted to talk about because there's so much that's coming to my mind right now.
Yeah, I mean, what do you do in circumstances? Well, let me actually back up. Do builders do a better job today of keeping conflict that they've had with previous construction projects out of the public marketplace, if you will, than they used to?
I would say yes, and it's to the homeowners, person that wants the home built's detriment, because builders have utilized arbitration and mediation that keeps it out of the public record, keeps it out of court filings, and this impedes a homeowner's ability to go and check, a report card, if you will, of how the builder has performed in the past. One of the ways that we advise our clients before they even start building a home is, and certainly if we're involved, is contacting the Home Builders Licensure Board to see if there have been any complaints against that builder. Because if there's nothing on the record, court record of previous cases, it's very difficult to dig up that information.
What are some questions that you would ask of your builder? Let's assume hypothetically that you're building a home that is a custom designed home with an architect versus a specification based home, or what we call a spec home. Both have a role in society, and there are plenty of both out there, and both help families raise families. But ultimately, what questions do you ask if you're trying to build a custom-based home? Do you ask questions of the builder related to their previous construction contracts to make sure that you know that person's capable of actually building the house?
Absolutely. I would first ask, how many houses of this nature have you built? I would ask for references. Secondly, I would also ask, what problems have they seen in the past on similar builds? One of the additional important questions goes around the subcontractors the builder uses. Are they using the same crews, these same subcontractors for build after build, and get their contact information and do a little digging to see if any other homeowner has had issues with those subcontractors, whether they're the framers, the plumbers, the electricians. That would be an initial first step.
A builder that has consistently used the same framers, same plumbers, same electricians, good sign or bad sign?
Most of the time, I've found it to be a better than average sign, because it gives you a sense of quality control. If there's an issue and the subcontractor's been routinely used for multiple builds, whether it's complex or a specification build, that allows the home builder to come in and adjust things. And if there's that established relationship, it's also sometimes a good sign that they haven't had issues in the past for other builds.
And I've always felt like that is a sign that there have been a consistent relationship, consistent payments of the subcontractors, and then consistent quality of work. So I think that a lot of times is a really good sign.
I'm wondering what people at home are thinking about right now when they've got some issues they're building. They've noticed a defect. The question is, when does that defect go from that builder being able to repair it, or it becomes a legal matter?
That's a very good question. If they notice a defect during the construction, I would suggest having a meeting as soon as possible with the builder to walk through that home and to voice, for the homeowner to voice their concerns. And any reasonable builder would say, yes, I know time, we all are short on time, but when you have a person's largest investment in your hands, they should be able to stop and address what concerns you have and say, this isn't an issue or this is an issue. Most of the time the builders have multiple homes being constructed at a given point. So asking them to stop work until that issue is resolved is a smart idea, as long as it's not something that's going to damage the home, such as weather's coming in and it's not covered up, et cetera. That is very crucial. It's also not a bad idea if there is a contract dispute on things being cut out of the home or cost cutting, to engage an attorney to try to navigate that issue. Because a lot of these construction contracts have mediation and alternative dispute clauses in them, and it falls back on the homeowner as well as the builder to kind of mitigate those damages.
And I think there's ways that you can navigate that with an attorney as needed in construction, where you don't ruin the relationship with your builder.
Absolutely.
That you realize, look, this is my largest investment. I'm just trying to make sure that we're doing things the way that we're supposed to. I'm getting some help on this issue, the contract, but I'm going to work with you and I want to get this project done. There are creative ways to maintain that relationship with your builder even when there's conflict. But I do want to ask you this, because I know this comes up a lot. Where do you draw the line as in mid-construction where it is the responsibility of the builder in the contract versus it is the responsibility of the homeowner to fill the gap for a cost change? Let me give you a couple examples, because I know you see this stuff. And I get these questions personally with friends of mine who have built homes who ask this question. Mid-construction, hey man, the price of lumber has gone up time and a half. We're going to have to do a change order on the lumber that we quoted in the initial contract as we're nearing the end of the framing stage, but lumber's gotten out of control. versus, hey, we found a sinkhole where your driveway is supposed to go that we have to completely fix, and we got to bring 6 loads of gravel in here before we put any of the cement down or the asphalt down for the driveway. We never anticipated that was going to happen. You see the difference between those two, but both significant issues that actually are real world circumstances that I've seen happen. How do you manage that?
Well, it goes back to the contract, and that's the negotiations up front. If it's a fixed cost contract, a lot of that liability for the additional cost can fall on the builder, and you can push it onto the builder. But if it's a cost plus contract where the contract will state X, Y, and Z is paid under this amount of money, and if anything above that, then we have to renegotiate with scopes of work. Yep. That's how it's addressed. So again, it goes back to the written documents for the build. And that is why it is so important just to have legal counsel early on to avoid those pitfalls and tough discussions, because when people get tired and their money is involved, people start arguing. And if you have something on paper to control that situation, it's a lot easier to negotiate.
We've talked a lot the first 2 segments about being smart on the front end with your contract, trying to work through conflict during construction. One of the things I want to talk about with Patrick in the 3rd segment here after we go to break for the last time is I want to talk about, all right, if it's come to the point where litigation is required, how do you manage that? How do you hire someone like Patrick's firm and move forward?
Managing all of that, you're managing the fact that you're here with us, and we appreciate you being here with us on The Attorneys as we're talking about construction litigation. Also want to let you know that we like to give you information throughout the show. Some of the issues that we talk about, we stream that at the bottom of the show. You see that scrolling on the bottom of the screen. That's to help you out as well. Follow us on all social media platforms, on Facebook, on X, on Instagram. Great information, great content. Even see some behind the scenes stuff there here at Hollis Wright. So go ahead and do that as well. We're going to take a break. We'll continue with construction litigation on The Attorneys just after this.
Thank you for watching The Attorneys each Sunday night, where we come to your living room to provide free legal advice in a confidential, off-air setting. Unfortunately, with the number of calls, texts, and emails that come in during the show, we can't always get to everything. But know this, Hollis Wright is open all week long. You call us at 844-LAW-TALK and we're going to answer your question for free. Thank you for watching The Attorneys, and we look forward to seeing you and talking to you soon.
If this place could talk, it wouldn't. It would sing and celebrate all of our stories of addiction recovery, victory, and community. This is Bradford Health Services. It all changes here.
You're watching The Attorneys, a paid advertisement brought to you by the law firm of Hollis Wright.
Welcome back. You are watching The Attorneys, and we're talking construction litigation. Just got a little bit more time left.
Yeah, and in this final segment, I do want to focus a little bit about, all right, I did what I could on the front end with my contract, and I got into a deal here, and I worked my way through construction conflicts with my builder. I still got a good relationship, but man, he is trying to turn this house over to me, and I think I'm entitled to have some level of warranty, and I think I have to get into litigation. Kind of let's manage that process as someone's moving into that property.
Sure. One, it would really help the homeowner if they had counsel to walk them through that, to be able to walk the fine line of not upsetting the builder, but also wanting to make sure their rights and obligations under the contract are secured. And at that point, if there is doubt on the construction build, it's not a bad idea to engage counsel who has experts to have the house reviewed before the final certificate of occupancy inspection is done. That way, problems can be noted and sent over to the builder. The builder has a chance to cure those defects, if there are any, before it is fully buttoned up.
All right, let me ask some rapid fire questions. Lawyers in this area, do they work on hourly, or do you also work on contingency?
Both. If it's just a contract review initially, it might be on an hourly basis, but a couple hours spent, up front can prevent a lot of pain on the back end. And if the case proceeds to litigation after the house has been constructed and hidden defects have been discovered or code violations have been discovered, a lot of times those cases are taken on a contingency basis.
Is it true that with new construction in Alabama, you have a 1-year warranty on the build from the time that you take the home over with the certificate of occupancy?
It depends again on the contract. A lot of builders will like to limit the new home warranty to 1 year, and there will be a warranty clause in the contract. If there is not, that extends 2 years thereafter, sometimes up to 6.
If you have to litigate over a construction defect, do you have a certain amount of time from the time you take over the house to file that suit?
Yes, you will have, if it's a breach of contract matter, you have typically 6 years. If it is fraud, where the builder completely messed up, or negligence, you would have a 2-year statute of limitations from the discovery of the defect and fraud.
See, this is why we get these guys on here. Rapid fire.
Let me tell you, this is informative. Not only is it informative, it's also
I'm learning
entertaining.
myself.
It's also entertaining. I just want to talk about the biggest takeaway that viewers should have from this show, and if you can just drive that home for them right now on construction litigation.
Do not be afraid to contact an attorney early on. When you get the construction contract on how the house is to be built, what you want your house to look like, it only takes an attorney usually several hours to review those documents and to tell you what's missing and tell you what needs to be included in the documents to protect yourself down the road. And don't be afraid to ask questions. You are paying for your largest investment to a builder that a lot of times you haven't dealt with before. The builder should feel comfortable answering your questions. And if he doesn't know the answer, he or she doesn't know the answer, they should be able to find the answer and relay that to you. But asking questions and having the documents reviewed and having documents that lay out what you want and how much it's going to cost is important.
I would say this too. One of the questions that I've always learned to ask is, can you give me 2 or 3 addresses of homes you've built? I'd just like to go over and take a look at it. And you know, you're going to have some that may have been built 10 years ago, one that's 2 years old. You probably can figure out, even if you don't get references, who lives in those homes. Ask some very simple questions. And I've gone so far before as to knock on the door when we were hiring a builder, just to ask the person, did they have a good experience or a bad experience? They weren't offended at all, and they gave me some good information that allowed me to know that I had the right builder there. So I do think sometimes when Patrick's talked a lot about this, and it's accurate, when it is your most valuable and most expensive purchase that you're going to have, that, by the way, could be the greatest investment that you have going for your return on investment. Spending a little extra time on the front end is not a bad idea, and making sure you know who you are hiring to build your house, I think, is important in the process too.
Patrick Evans.
Great job, by the way.
Appreciate it.
Fabulous job.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
And on behalf of everyone here on The Attorneys, we thank you so much for watching, and also invite you to follow us on the social media platforms throughout the week. Make sure you also make an appointment to catch the show for the next episode, as we give you great information. You can always reach someone at Hollis Wright by going to X, Instagram, or Facebook. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you back here next time.
Thanks for watching The Attorneys, sponsored by Hollis Wright.